Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive in. Today, it's all about those motivation tricks everyone's after. And let me tell you, you guys sent in a ton of material on this one.
Yeah, no kidding. Seems like everyone's looking for that secret formula to unlock endless motivation. It's like the holy grail of productivity. The interesting thing is these sources you've given me, they're all over the map. We've got psychology, straight up to-do lists, even some neuroscience thrown in there.
So, like a good buffet, there's something for everyone. But let's be real, we've all seen those lists of motivational quotes that are just kind of, we're going deeper today.
Hmm.
And speaking of going deep, let's talk SMART goals. I feel like everyone and their grandma throws that acronym around, but actually putting it into practice, that's a whole other story.
It's true, knowing the acronym doesn't magically make you motivated, right? One thing that stuck out to me from like three of these different sources is this idea of breaking down those huge EE goals into teeny tiny steps.
Okay, I like where this is going. Give me an example. Paint me a word picture.
Okay, imagine you have to eat an elephant.
Whoa, hold on. That took a turn. Why an elephant?
It's an analogy. See, if you think about eating the whole elephant, you'd be overwhelmed before you even started, right? But if you just focus on one bite at a time,
Okay, I see what you're saying. Less about the elephant, more about the bites.
exactly, it's about those small wins. Each bite or each small task you complete is a victory in itself. And those little victories, they create this snowball effect, boosting your motivation to keep going. Several sources emphasize that those small wins are where it's at.
So, ditch the elephant. Remember the bite-sized goals. Got it. But it's not just about having a goal, right? These sources are big on finding your why, like the deeper meaning behind what you're working towards. Some even talked about vision boards, which, honestly, I've always been a bit skeptical of. So, practically speaking, how does someone tap into their why, and is there any science behind all this?
Okay, so full disclosure, I used to roll my eyes a bit at the whole vision board thing too. But digging into the research, there's actually something there. It boils down to this. It's not enough to just want to achieve something. You need to connect with it emotionally.
Hmm.
So ask yourself, why is this goal important to me? What will it feel like to accomplish it? Because when things get tough, and they will, that emotional connection becomes your fuel.
It's like having a reserve tank for when your motivation inevitably dips.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And get this, there was this fascinating study at UCLA where they had basketball players vividly imagine themselves making free throws. Turns out, those who visualize most clearly actually improve their real-life performance. Our brains are powerful things.
So picturing yourself succeeding actually primes your brain for success. That's kind of cool.
It is, and it plays into this whole law of attraction idea, which some
Yeah.
of these sources touched on. Basically, the more you focus on what you want, the more likely you are to attract it into your life. But it all starts with that clear why.
All right, I'm sold. Time to dust off my old Pinterest board, I guess. But let's be honest, sometimes even a clear why isn't enough. That's where I think those little tangible rewards come in. And speaking of support systems, a bunch of these sources talked about surrounding yourself with the right people. What are your thoughts on that? How can someone build a support system that actually boosts their motivation?
You're hitting on something crucial here. We, humans, are wired for connection, and that definitely plays into motivation. Think about it. Being around positive, supportive people, it's contagious. Their energy lifts you up. On the flip side, if you're constantly surrounded by negativity and doubt, it's going to wear you down.
It's like that saying you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose wisely.
Exactly. Now, about those rewards, for them to really work, they got to be personal. Forget generic prizes. Think about what you truly enjoy. Maybe it's a weekend getaway, a new book, or even just a long, hot bath after a productive day.
Oh, see, now you're speaking my language. Self-care is a reward. I'm all in. But here's the thing. Life isn't always about those mountaintop moments, is it? We got to talk about the in-between, the everyday grind. These sources emphasize the importance of tracking progress, embracing failure, and here's a big one, prioritizing self-care. How do those three things contribute to long-term motivation?
You're right. Motivation isn't the constant high. It's more like a marathon. And just like training for a marathon, you need to pace yourself, acknowledge the highs, aim to the lows. That's where tracking progress comes in. It doesn't have to be complicated. Even a simple checklist can be surprisingly powerful.
It's like those visual reminders that you are moving forward, even when it doesn't feel like it.
Exactly. Now, about embracing failure, let's be real. Setbacks happen. The important thing is how you respond. Instead of seeing failure as a full stop, think of it as a comma, a pause, before you continue the sentence.
I love that analogy.
Right. So when you hit a bump in the road, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach? It's about adopting a growth mindset, seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. And that brings us to self-care. You can't pour from an empty cup. Make sure you're taking time for yourself to recharge, to relax, to do things that bring you joy.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to prioritize
Tell
ourselves.
me about it. It's something I have to consciously remind myself too. But here's the thing. Self-care isn't selfish. It's essential for sustainable motivation.
I'm so glad we're talking about this. It's like permission to prioritize ourselves. So, what have we learned today? It seems like motivation isn't this elusive magical power, but a series of choices, of strategies that we can implement to stay on track. What final words of wisdom do you have for our listeners as they, continue on their motivation journeys?
You got it. It's about building those habits, those little rituals that keep you going. Start small, celebrate those wins no matter how small they seem, and remember, consistency is key.
Love it. It's about those baby steps, those consistent efforts, and a whole lot of self-compassion along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been awesome. A huge thank you to our listeners for sending in all those amazing sources. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and remember, you've got this.